Hello and happy Tuesday to everybody out there. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast powered by Ford. Check out buyfordnow.com to find and test drive a Ford nearest you. Yes, that Ford. Big, bad American Ford. Bringing us the Winter Meetings week and our friend John Foley, who will be joining us shortly from Nashville, as not a lot actually per se happened yesterday, but the rumor mill, the morning stovetop, is in full swing, and we'll get to all that in a second. But the big news of yesterday, Renee, of course, it happened right as you left the offices yesterday, where the Phillies and manager Rob Thompson agreed on a one-year extension. Tyler and I hopped on real quick just to give a quick reaction to it. And our reaction was, this makes a whole lot of sense because Rob Thompson has had, if you judge your success in terms of championships only, then he's been a failure. But I think that's an incredibly unfair to judge most coaches and managers. But he has been in a World Series and he has been in an NLCS, and he was not deserving of being a lame duck manager. And there was a great piece by Matt Gelb on The Athletic, which had a quote in it from Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski. And I think this just kind of encapsulates Rob Thompson's kind of just general being. Dombrowski said, "He didn't ask me. I approached him." And Rob's quote was, "I'm waiting to win a World Series, and then I was going to approach him." So loved hearing that. I think it gives you a little mindset into Rob of like, the job's not done. I'm not going to laud myself. I'm not going to parade around thinking I demand a new contract. I've been a lame duck manager for 27 years. And I think it's a good, I think you kind of see how his personality translates to the clubhouse and the team.
Yeah, look, we talked about it on the show before about, I think it was as we were going through grading everybody, what would Rob Thompson's extension look like? And I believe most of us mentioned a 1 year extension. You definitely also want to lock in before, you don't want, the longer you go without that extension, the longer it's procrastination. It just prolongs things. Like, you want to have Rob for, through 2025. Go ahead and give him the extension. Now he can start focusing on the immediate future versus the wondering. And obviously there's love all throughout the Phillies organization for Rob, for the players, for how he works with Dave and everyone. So to just make it prolonged and drag on is just unnecessary. So I like the fact that this is something that, as winter meetings get started, okay, another thing done. I know we've talked Zach Wheeler extension, Bryce Harper's contract being rejigged, Rob Thompson extension. Continue to check those boxes. Lock in the sure things. Rob has, although sometimes may get heat, and I know I've thrown some heat his way myself, Rob Thompson has done a steady job. You look at what he's done since being appointed and coming in a couple years ago, and you look at the fact that this team has been World Series, NLCS, fallen short. So I would love to see, with 1 more year for Topper in that contract extension through 2025. Okay, now what? What does next year look like? How does the team come out next season and make adjustments to hopefully get back and further? So I'm all for it. And I like the fact that also with that, we got the news I know you and Tyler talked about, the announcing of hiring an assistant hitting coaches as well.
Yeah, 2 hitting coaches.
Philly's taking care of business right now.
Yeah, this is a quote I'll get to from the Matt Gelb article as well. But 2 hitting coaches can't come into the organization now to be under, I guess, the guidance of hitting coach Kevin Long. One is coming from the Giants organization, where he was the biomechanics coach for the hitting program out there. The other guy, and I think Tyler just scoffed at biomechanics. And the other guy comes from the Astros organization. So I guess Pat Burrell felt as though he didn't need the biomechanics guy in San Fran, freeing him up. And this is from the Matt Gelb article, which makes a lot of sense. I think the Phillies are, one, recognizing that stylistically some things need to change. It's not the fault of Kevin Long. It's just that Kevin Long needed some more help. The Phillies went into the offseason thinking that Long was stretched thin and could offer better feedback to the hitters if they tweaked the in-game duties. All of this novel in December. The Phillies will have to chase fewer pitches in 2024, and even the best hitting coaches are only good as their personnel. There will not be any major lineup acquisitions, Dombrowski said. The Phillies are betting on continuity, allowing them to make efficient adjustments where needed. So it's a clear directional change in adjustments in the hitting approach without making any major moves. And, you know, it's one of the questions we're going to talk to John momentarily from Nashville today. I'd like him to ask Dave Dombrowski today is like, you have guys that are so in the prime of their careers and gotten to this point of excellence. How do you teach an old dog new tricks?
Yeah.
How do you get Nick Castellanos to stop chasing low and outside? How do you get Trey Turner might be the most moldable one, I feel like, but like, how do you get some of these guys that are veterans that have been doing it for pretty well for so long to change all of a sudden? Now I know, like, you know, the article went on to say Kevin Long's going to deal with the at-bats and the other coaches will deal with the pitch selections, the swing movement and all that stuff. But that's got to be a tough task to undertake there. Yeah,
and that's a great point. You know, look, for Rob Thompson specific, I know in the chat you guys are talking a lot about your thoughts on Rob and specifically looking at the postseason. Since Rob started as interim in June of 2022, then was fully manager in October of the same year, you look at what the Phillies have done since then, and there's obviously areas that are question marks. Like, we all agree, whether it was Craig Kimbrell, postseason decisions not to maybe change and tweak the lineup, Yoro in big moments and having Johan Rojas in big moments. You know, those are the question marks that we have that down the stretch. Okay, Rob Thompson, we saw games like against the Braves, for example. What was it, game one? And game three, especially, where he was really playing chess. He was really in his bag, so to speak.
Outs from the bullpen.
But then you turn around and you look at the NLCS, and Rob had some blunders. And honestly, you felt like the Phillies got a little bit out coached in that sense. And so the question always is, well, is it on Rob? I know your chair's a little low. I noticed I was looking down on you. I was going to say that. I was like, maybe Jamie wants to sit a little lower today.
I felt really low there.
But there were those questions also of, is it on Rob or is it on the guys? And as a former athlete myself, yes, the athletes, especially as grown men, have some responsibility to hold themselves accountable to make adjustments. But I love what you're saying of, okay, well, Rob, what is your plan? Because everybody's got to do their part. So that's why I'm all for this extension through 2025, because we don't have enough of a sample size from Rob. But what we have seen is a World Series run and an NLCS run. Now, what I need to see next is, how are you talking with the guys, especially leading up to this upcoming season, to make those adjustments, to make sure that, you know, you're getting better at bats, you're getting overall much more consistency and much more of just that all-around performance we want from the Phillies.
And Hypothetical Man says, I think, a very fair criticism of them here in the chat. And thanks for joining us, everyone. Make sure you're hitting that like button while you're in here in the chat. And he says, Topper has been a masterful manager in the short series, but he's left a lot to be desired in the traditional 7-game series. I think that's fair. You know, there was a couple things you want to go back in that NLCS and change. And in the World Series the year before that, you know, leaving Nola in, like, you know, those are the decisions that are going to get, you know, magnified in an offseason when you don't win. So
yeah, and I
think that's a fair critique.
And that is the types of stuff that when you talk about as a manager, your role is to make sure you're coaching, organizing, structuring this team, whatever term you want to use. I know WYRM's like, they're managers, they're not coaches. You are a coach. Also, your job is to coach. Your job is to manage a team. Your job is to set them up for success. So for me, I'm not putting all the blame on Topper. No, he's not at the bat. No, he's not the one pitching. He's not in Craig Kimbrell's spot, but he is the one that's making some decisions. Yeah. And so you can't fully exude him from that fault, because that's his job as the manager of this organization, to make sure they're setting up each game, especially once you get to the postseason, to win. So I know we talked about this before many times about, you know, just who's at fault, so to speak. It's a little bit of everyone. I'm not going to fully blame Topper, but I'm also not going to fully, you know, think he's above that blame. But he has done a steady job, that the extension was well-deserved at this point of the season. The offseason, I should say, going into winter meetings. The Phillies are just kind of crossing the T's, dotting the I's, getting those logistics done that really allow for now you guys to just focus into spring training, knowing that, Rob, you're extended another year. Hopefully Zach's extension. You know, these are the types of moves that will just help the team be able to focus on the most important things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there was a comment, MBD. I do think coming out strong this year is important to not.
You mean unlike last year?
Yeah, and MBD says, we'll see if the spring training guru can get them off to a fast start this year. Yeah, when you have the Braves in your division, look, I don't really care if they win the division or not, because I do think there's something to the rest being more problematic than it is good in baseball. That's my personal opinion. But you still want to not have to dig yourself out of a hole. So we'll see how the Phillies come out this year.
Yeah. I do also think one last thing before we move on. I know you're ready to move forward. It is in baseball, much like football, with any sport where there's coordinators and, specified coaches that are working with a specific group, it does make it tricky of like who's in charge of what.
Well, I think Kevin
that's
Long,
always the tricky part too, of even managing the different voices. You got a lot of cooks in the kitchen that you're managing.
People in the chat are saying, Kevin Long reports to Thompson, it all falls on him. But I think
that's
when you look at Kevin Long from the 30,000-foot view, the young guys took a lot of strides last year. Brandon Marsh took some serious strides. Alec Boehm took some serious strides, and Bryson Stott. I mean, at times those three, not excluding Harper, might have been your three most consistent at bats. So when you look at Kevin Long in that regard,
right,
it's a really good thing. And that's going, if you're Dave Dombrowski and John Middleton, you're going, all right, how can we help Kevin Long more? Like, I don't think he's deserving of losing his job because Nick Castellanos and Trey Turner forgot how to hit in game 6 and 7. How can we help him? Maybe we give these guys to supplement him in game.
I'm okay with the NLCS blunders and the lack of adjustments and the fact that the bats went cold. If this upcoming season, I think it's definitely starting out to a much better start. Cannot have the same type that we've seen the last season especially, but have to get to a better start. And then want to see as the season's progressing, how the lineups are shaping out and how adjustments are being made. Because I know in the chat you guys are talking about that as well. Dave Dorr and different people, Matt, that you're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're keeping an eye on. I think that's why that extension makes sense for like a short-term 1-year extension through 2025.
Yeah, so wrapping up the rest of the Phillies before we get to John, and we'll talk kind of all of the hot stove with him because there's a lot happening around the league.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this, and I think this was the least shocking news ever in the Matt Gelb story. I'll just read it. It's not the splashiest offseason. The Phillies have not spoken to San Diego about Juan Soto, according to several major league sources. They are not bidding in the highest range for Yamamoto, and they are not targeting other top-flight pitchers such as Blake Snell and Josh Hader. They are content to see the biggest pieces come off the board and add complementary players when prices drop. The onus will be on everyone, players and coaches, returning from a successful team. I don't want to say that's a duh statement.
There I am.
It's not, because Matt did some work and talked to some sources there. But I do think that's kind of obvious, because of the payroll. The Phillies right now projected are $252 million, the third highest in baseball. The Braves are slightly above them at $256, and the Mets, still on the hook for Scherzer and Verlander, are at $289. Yankees are right behind them, Padres right behind them, Astros right behind them. So I think to expect them to go get a Yamamoto, a Snell, a Hader is just foolish, to be honest. This is the most money they've ever spent. This is a new realm for them to be in. They're not going to keep going. There is a limit. It's a salary capless league, but there is a limit to what John Middleton's going to spend here.
And that's the thing. Obviously, you'd love for the Phillies to be able to go out and figure out ways to bring in Juan Soto, Yamamoto, hey, Ohtani, let's bring them all in. But there's money that has to be spent. There's a cap. There's a limit. So as you hear the different reports. I know Scott Lauber was also saying the Phillies are not in on the Soto sweepstakes they were talking about. They're not involved in trade talks for Juan Soto. A source familiar with the club's thinking said Monday at winter meeting. So, yeah, it's not surprising. It's one of those things where we would like it to happen.
Sure.
Of course, in a dream world, we'd love to be able to think about, what would the Phillies look like if you have these, flashy names that you're adding into the organization. But overall, this club already made the most important deals, and they understand, much like I always say, it's not about just having the best players. You don't need all the superstars to win. look across the leagues, Clippers looking at you, having all these all-stars and superstars doesn't always equate to championships. You need to have the right blend of talent, role players, complementary pieces. So the Phillies need those dogs that are going to come and have that underdog mentality and help them just continue to grind out wins. So I like that they're stating the obvious, because I agree. Money is an object, and money is also an object when you're going to FOCO, because you want to make sure you're shopping. And I know King Krabs was on it. FOCO, the spot to be able to purchase any of the leading options for merchandise, apparel, bobbleheads, collectibles. Head on over to FOCO. Use that code that is on your screen. PHLY10 gets you 10% off. Again, for those listening across all of our podcast platforms that we appreciate so much, using code PHLY10 gets you 10% off at FOCO. So now you can have the best gear, the best merch, the best items that you're rocking as you are cheering on your teams anytime that you're heading out to the ballpark, the arena, the stadium, wherever you're going.
Yeah, so the last Phillies Nuggets, and then we'll bring John in here. Michael Taylor, who we talked about yesterday as being one of those non-sexy kind of outfielders to add to the team. He has apparently a lot of interest and has allegedly offers from 6 teams. So TBD if the Phillies are one of them. To the people in the chat saying Kimbrel sucks, it looks like the Orioles are exploring and kicking the tires on our old friend Craig, so you did not have to worry about that. So
that's so sad to hear.
Yeah.
Baltimore could be picking up Craig. Wow.
Well, Tyler, are we all set in Nashville?
Yeah, we are. Apparently, so we've got like 150 different things happening at PHLY today. And
I saw our coworker Fletcher Cox.
Well, I'm going to apologize to anybody in the chat. I think there was some. How do I say? I'm going to have to pause as soon as I say this. There was some cross-stream things happening between our show here and whatever work is being done in the other studio. So anybody that I believe heard some of our Flyers friends.
But they're not even in the studio.
That's probably what
Eagles
happened.
guys, I think, are back in studio.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's
There's
happening.
a lot of things going on right now. But to answer your question, we are indeed ready to talk to John.
All right, well, let's send it down to Nashville. If I was going to Nashville, I'd want to be driving in my Ford. This is powered by Ford. Check out buyfordnow.com to find and test drive the Ford dealer nearest you. And there is our friend John Foley with the official All-City backdrop behind him, looking professional as ever, credential around the neck. Good morning down in Nashville, John.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, we're very professional down here at the moment. Our friends from Chicago have set up a whole studio here. They've got about a dozen folks. They're really paying close attention to Ohtani news. And to be honest, I'm a little bit jealous. It seems like they're having a lot more fun with some of the Chicago rumors than we are with the Phillies. As you all were noting, Gelb's article yesterday sort of indicated that they're not interested in doing much of anything big. Hopefully maybe that's a little bit of gamesmanship on Dombrowski's part. You have to think that if the right opportunity comes along, he's certainly not shy about wheeling and dealing. But the overarching theme that's starting to develop is, this team was just about good enough to win the World Series last year, the year before that. It didn't happen. And it might not be outside help coming in. It might be, just these players performing up to expectations, and maybe these new batting coaches can help. I'm always a little skeptical about the idea. I think, Jamie, you were talking about earlier that, professional ball players that have been doing this their entire lives are going to sort of get coached up, stop chasing bad pitches. Kevin Long has had, as you noted, a ton of success with the younger guys. But it's hard to imagine, and I don't know these new coaches, these new assistant hitting coaches' backgrounds. It's a little hard to imagine that they're going to come in and give some directions to Nick Castellanos and have him cut down on his chase rate. But maybe they can. They were hired for a reason, and we'll see what happens there. I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, well, John, I love the fact that you have the official All City set up because it looks like your press conference ready right now. And I know in the chat people are putting in some requests as well for some conversations I want you to intercept because, as you mentioned and as we've talked about, the Phillies right now aren't in a situation of having a need to make the flashiest, sexiest, as Jamie always says, deals down in Nashville right now. It's just about those complementary pieces. So ahead of Rob Thompson, who's going to be speaking at 1:40, it's his presser. What is it that you're hoping to hear from Rob in that?
You know, I'm hoping to hear from Rob that I think we'll hear. I think we'll hear the typical lines. He's happy with the team he has now. They're good enough to win as the team is presently uh, constituted, and what else can he really say? Now, in the back of his mind, he absolutely wants an infusion of new talent, or even if it's, we've talked in previous episodes here, it doesn't even have to be superstar upgrades. You could even make some changes, some lateral moves to switch it up a little bit and bring in folks that maybe uh, bring a little bit of a better mix. We have a lot of the same types of hitters. Maybe you send out somebody with a high chase rate, a power guy for somebody with more contact, more on base percentage. I don't expect to hear much of that from Rob. I expect him to say, he loves his guys. He's going to back his guys up. That's one of the best attributes about him. Um, but if we can read between the lines and get a few nuggets from Rob about what he thinks the team needs, I think that's what I'd like to hear if he's willing to be forthcoming with that.
Yeah. So, John, Michael Taylor, like that type of level of player, is probably about as sexy as the Phillies are going to get. We just went through the payroll numbers. They're at 252 million projected already, the third highest in baseball. They, as of now, are spending more than the New York Yankees. Like, any other guys you've heard mentioned down there and talking to Phillies reporters? Any other outfield names pop up? Because to me, like, this is a position of need. Not, I don't believe for a second what Dave Dombrowski is saying that they're all set. Any other names you've heard kind of mentioned in that, sub-tier category of outfielders, particularly right-handers?
There has not been. I mean, the Phillies haven't been tied to much of anything here, which is surprising. Hopefully, it changes today. As soon as we get some of that information, I'll put it right out there. But for the most part, no, they're just not players this year, and I think it's in large part due to the payroll, like you said, Jamie. I mean, it doesn't make for a fun week right now for Phillies fans, but if you step back and take a look at it, this is an enviable position to be in, to have your team mostly set. And yes, they should add an outfielder, a reliever, a few more tweaks here and there. But one thing I've noticed being down here, speaking to folks from other teams, there's a lot of teams with enormous holes to fill, and they're desperately hoping that they can get Otani, that they can get Yamamoto, and while those would be spectacular additions to any team, including the Phillies, um, it's you you should rather be us than them when it comes to this stuff. That you know a a fairly tame winter meetings from the Phillies is not necessarily a bad thing. It's always more fun if they make a splash, if they make big moves. They've done that a number of years in a row now, and again, I think that's why they're looking at bulking up the coach, and they have players that they think are good enough to win the World Series. Honestly, I believe they are good enough to win the World Series. They have been for a couple of years, and they just didn't get it done. So at some point, the onus is on those players, those superstars, step up, make it happen.
Yeah, I know I'm seeing in the chat some chatter about, Carpenter School wants to re-sign Reese Hoskins. I know people are talking about different things. So as we know, the Phillies specifically haven't been in chats of any serious major moves. But Jamie and I haven't even had a chance to dive into the other hot stove news around the league. Of course, there's different updates, whether it's Ohtani being rumored to possibly go to the Blue Jays and other things. What have you heard outside of the Phillies in terms of moves? I know right now you're kind of just sitting back, I won't say relaxing, but sitting back a little bit more because the Phillies aren't expected to make any flashy deals, especially this week. Whereas we are hearing the constant rumors about other teams looking to lock in these major prospects, whether it's Ohtani or Bellinger or different people. What have you heard down in Nashville in terms of some potential updates?
I think the most talk this morning has really been about the possibility of Ohtani to the Blue Jays. There's a report last night that that Ohtani was talking to the Jays organization in Florida. And I know it definitely has our Chicago buddies a little concerned. But what can you really make of that? There's tons of gamesmanship going on. There's this whole concept that Ohtani was planning to eliminate anyone if there were leaks about who he was talking to. He wanted to keep it sort of secretive, that they would automatically be out of the conversation. I don't know if I believe that. You could even think that maybe they were sort of gamed by another organization. But Ohtani continues to be and will be throughout this week. He's going to be the main topic of conversation. I would say the second biggest thing I've heard, non-Phillies related, is that the Padres and Yankees, despite some talk yesterday that they were still pretty far apart, there seems to be an emerging consensus here that these two teams really need to work that out with each other. That it's a great deal could be a great deal for both teams. Makes all the sense in the world, and sort of the vibe is that people think Soto and the Yankees will work it out. Now that's just this morning. Yesterday it sounded completely different. One thing to remember here is that everything you hear, just take it with a grain of salt, because 2 hours later you might hear something completely different.
Awesome, John. We appreciate the check-in this morning. I know you got Rob Thompson coming up with his public availability here pretty shortly. So why don't you go get the latest from him, break a couple stories for us, and if you want to start a couple false rumors, we're here to help, push them along for you. So let us know if you want to cook up something bad.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to have some fun by the end of the week, whether it's real rumors, fake rumors. We're going to get something going, and we're going to make sure we have some fun with the Phillies talk. So
you're reading along with John's Week in Nashville on allphly.com. John, we will talk to you soon. Thank you for checking in. And John is powered by Ford. Check out buyfordnow.com to find and test drive the Ford nearest you. So we're going to do a little inside radio here because I may have looked quasi-miserable during that interview with John.
No.
And that was no reflection on what John was saying or anything about that. We have a bit of a blown computer speaker issue, so it was very hard to hear what John was saying.
I heard him perfectly.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, you have that next level here. And my chair's sinking. I'm lower than you again.
I'm not going to lie.
This is not going well for me today.
You guys ever
Somebody said that you broke the chair.
You guys ever seen the movie Office Space? An Office Space where they take the printer or the fax machine to the field and just beat it
That's
with
what I want to do,
baseball
that
bats?
computer speaker.
What I love is
I think we just raise the whole thing and start over.
Yeah.
I love the fact that we're having two totally different experiences.
Yeah.
Like, I'm over here like,
So,
you're over here shrinking.
So, like, my wife is a teacher, and, like, we'll be having a conversation, and the kids will be going, like, nuts and being like, da, da, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I literally cannot hear you right now.
You got to pick out the buzzwords.
I'm incapable of it.
Wow. All right.
So, I was just angrily sending messages on our team Slack, like, we need to fix this now.
Well,
so that's why
the good news is it doesn't affect
No,
I was
everybody
gonna say,
listening.
everybody else, like Matt is saying, they heard him just
Yeah,
fine.
you guys could, but that I was wearing an angry
Carpet
face on
is
that,
cool.
so
Is really being mean to our guy John right now. What I love about our group though is we each have different personalities and we play off of each other. I feel like pretty nicely. And John is Mr. Calm, cool, mild mannered. Similar to actually like how Bo is and kind of like Derek's kind of like that. Like we have a good mixture of those personalities around. We're not that, but
yeah.
Carpenter's cool. Leave him alone. Oh wow! I thought you were 20. Thought you were 21 years old.
No,
there you go.
Oh yeah.
Well, at least 21 technically.
21
Could be anything.
at
You are
heart,
at least
yeah.
21.
You're mentally
Yes.
21.
Yes. So I'm glad everybody could hear John better than I could.
Yeah, I was like, it wasn't great, but I was picking up on it.
All I could hear was
I was even taking some notes. I got some notes out of it too. But
so I wanted to pretty much die there. So that was my miserable face. It was, no offense, John. That was me. I didn't
and
wear
you're
it
mad
well.
you're shrinking.
Yes, and I'm shrinking and sending angry Slack messages. It's okay.
You
We're
did
fine.
get some compliments. I heard people were saying you look like Big Dom over there.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I want to be Big Dom, but okay.
I don't know how to take that either, actually. But at least Carpenter's cool at saying you look very young.
I've stood next to Big Dom a couple times, and I'm much smaller of a man. He is a large human being.
Like you've got the hat, like it's the black.
His glasses are way
vibe.
more South Philly than mine.
That's valid.
Yeah,
That's valid.
He's got the frameless, kind of like tinted. You don't really know what's going on there, but you kind of want to avoid
Typical
it. Kind
miserable
of
guy.
Yeah. So let's get to some of the hot stove rumors. I don't even know
man.
what you and John said. I was just hearing like Peanuts
How
teacher
did I
voice.
hear me? I'm sitting right here.
Because I was just like anticipating the awfulness.
I'm not
coming.
gonna lie, guys.
So it was-
Jamie has a really bad habit. He doesn't listen to me.
No, I do listen to you.
I don't know what if you have this issue at home also.
No.
But if Addie ever complains about it, I agree because I've said things and you will literally. I'll be like, the sky is blue, and you'll be like, wow,
Well,
the
because
sky is blue, and I'm like,
looking
I
at
literally.
my notes. Like sometimes I'm trying to work ahead. That speaker made me want to jump out the window. You know, stuff happens.
I've actually seen Jamie try to tweet 3 separate tweets at once at points. Like,
Stop trying to multitask.
Yeah.
You're not a multitasker.
No, my ADD brain says
You're
otherwise.
like playing with the rug. You're doing a whole bunch of
chair's
things. Yeah, you're
sinking.
all over the place. It's fine. It's fine.
It's
Everything's
okay.
fine.
So let's get to the hot stove. I know Ohtani was discussed there, but there's a very, I think, interesting development, and it has to do with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Jeff Passan, a couple weeks ago, Ohtani is dealing in such secrecy that we don't even know your future husband's dog's name yet. He wouldn't even give his dog's name on his MVP award session because people are thinking that there's going to be some connection to his new team because of his dog name. Like, we're all losing our minds a little bit on the Ohtani front. But Jeff Passan, in his story a week or 2 weeks ago, said that because of this level of secrecy with Ohtani, he's going to view any team he meets with, if news gets out to the press, he's going to view it as a slight on the team. And Ken Rosenthal and others last night said allegedly Ohtani was in the Toronto Blue Jays Florida spring training facility meeting with the team, and word got out pretty quickly. Another guy, I have to find his name in my notes here, says that the Dodgers are believed to be the landing spot amongst executives, but do not count out the Blue Jays yet. Now you wonder if the Blue Jays news coming out, they kind of plaxicoed themselves, shot themselves in the foot, and, you know, that's going to hurt them. And if so, I really want Toronto to get him. Get to the AL, please. So I really don't want to see him go to the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, listen, somebody was asking in the chat, John Sequella was asking, since Ohtani doesn't want leaks, does that mean the Blue Jays are out? It doesn't make you wonder. I know Jeff
Passan,
Foley
I
was
think,
just
is the
talking
best.
about that.
So when he puts that out there, like, I think he's the best reporter in the game.
As you mentioned, a Monday meeting at their training complex in Dunedin, Florida, makes you wonder if that's leaked as some bait maybe to some other teams, like, look, we're having meetings and it's not supposed to be leaked. But I will say also, I thought it was very entertaining that we heard from the GM of the Blue Jays, Ross Atkins, who was he was interviewed on like a show on MLB Network Radio, it was, and he was giving his plea for why Ohtani should go to Toronto. He was saying, the city of Toronto represents a nation. They've got the best resources to get players better. They have a player-focused facility. They also have the draw and ability to acquire talent at every level, amateur, international. They can maximize spending. He went through and through. We've got George Springer, Kevin Gossman, Chris Bassett types of deals that we've been able to make. So to be able to see Ross out there giving the plea, and then also see the meetings that were happening in Dunedin, excuse me. I'm never gonna say that correct. I'm trying. I feel like it's important for me to add that nugget in there. Dunedin. Excuse me.
There you go.
But it should be spelled Dunedin. I mean, that's what it's spelled. It's spelled like Dunedin. Just keep it simple. Whoever thought this?
I don't see
Dunedin. It's spelled like D-U-N-E.
I am on an article that says
Dunedin.
15 Florida towns you're pronouncing wrong. I'm telling you, that's how you pronounce it.
You Googled it while I said it because you knew it was wrong.
No,
when
you
I
first
said
said it, I went,
Dunedin.
That's not right.
You didn't know it was Dunedin.
Yeah, I did. Because I can hear Tom McCarthy in my head go, and the Phillies got on the team bus on their way to Dunedin this morning because they played the Blue Jays a lot.
I still don't like it.
I wasn't going to correct you. Tyler blew it up, and then you brought it up.
Well, because I still think they're saying it wrong. It should just be Dunedin. Tom's also wrong.
Should we get you a meeting with the mayor down there?
Yeah, because I even studied linguistics in college. Mm-hmm. I just think that the phonetics of it is Dunedin.
Yeah, carpet is cool.
But okay, Dunedin.
Yeah, D's Nuts. Maybe they just changed the name to D's Nuts, Florida.
Dunedin, excuse me, whatever. Dunedin. I'm going to name you. That's what our dog's gonna be named, Dunedin.
I do.
Dunedin
John
Ohtani.
Sequela says it's an awesome facility, great views, good beers, nice bar
just
in left field.
Just a terrible named area.
Parking sucks. I do want to do like the Florida spring trading tour and go around to follow the Phillies and go to like a couple different complexes.
Yeah,
that would be really fun.
So okay, all this was the point of all this, and you all got sidetracked on Dunedin, aka Dunedin.
Yeah. I don't know where you see. Oh, yeah,
D-U-N-E is Dune.
Yeah.
Like the dunes. And then din is like dinner.
Dunedin. I don't think so.
Makes me think of Dig Dug.
John Dickerson says Renee calls Intercourse, Pennsylvania hanky-panky.
Some names are just overthought. Stop saying it's Dunedin. It's Dunedin.
Do you call reading?
No.
Okay.
Because you read a book.
Yes.
You could read a book.
I mean,
also.
Some have read a book. I haven't read a book in a long time.
Oh, good Lord. And so all of that was me to say that obviously we've heard the rumors that Toronto is the front runner. They seem to be the one that's closing in on a deal.
Well, they're the dark horse. I think the Dodgers are still the favorite, but the Blue Jays, people are saying now, are legit contenders for them.
But then I also don't know exactly how accurate this is, because now we're also hearing the reports that allegedly there's some potential that Shohei Ohtani just stays with Los Angeles.
Well, I don't want to hear him ever
Angels.
talk about wanting to win if he re-signs with the Angels.
And then I heard there's also some reports that there's a sixth mystery team that's uncertain. So for all intents and purposes, there are 5 clubs until further notice. That's what Heyman was saying. And John Heyman was saying that it could be Atlanta. It could be someone that we haven't. I mean, we've talked about Atlanta, so I don't know what would be a mystery team.
So Mark Bauman, who covers, or Bowman, excuse me.
I would say Bowman.
I grew up with somebody with that last name. They pronounce it Bowman. So we'll go with Bowman. Mark Bowman from down in Atlanta. He's basically the Todd Zalecki version of the MLB writer down in Atlanta. He came out yesterday and it was music to Phillies fans' ears because he came out with a story and says the Braves have not talked to Ohtani, are not expected to really talk to Ohtani, and their interest in Dylan Cease has been way overblown. But a little bit of bad news, he does go on to say that Corbin Burns and Tyler Glasnow could be potential trade partners. He also thinks the Braves could be selling some pieces to kind of sell high on people and free up some money elsewhere. So this caught my attention because it's NL East news. The 2 names he mentioned as people to sell high on was Marcell Ozuna, who really became a hate to face for me. I did want the Phillies to get him like 4 or 5 years ago, though. And Raciel Iglesias, their stud closer, who missed the first half of this year coming off an injury. So interesting that they could potentially sell those. Horrifying, they could get a Corbin Burns. Tyler Glasnow wouldn't worry me as much as Burns. But he does say the Ohtani news is pretty much trash. and the Dylan Cease thing is overblown. So in terms of NL East news, I take that as fairly encouraging.
I mean, the thing
Minus Corbin
about Ohtani at this point is we've heard now the Angels are back in the mix. We've heard the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Blue Jays, the Giants, the Braves. Of course, we've heard, when you look across all these names, every day it's a different one that's a front runner, that's a favorite. So, this is what happens when you've got the big name Shohei Ohtani on the market. And I know somebody earlier, I think it was Christy or someone was saying, like, we haven't had that much excitement this winter so far in winter meetings. It is only Tuesday, and I imagine things might ramp up a little bit. But we also have been hearing some other reports. I know it's a weird thing going out in Seattle with the Mariners because obviously Blake Snell's been
freed that money up.
Blake Snell's been literally saying, "Take me," and they won't. But they have been there have been reports that they are considering Cody Bellinger as their free agent option to bring in. That was something that
was Morosi just like an hour ago.
Yeah, on MLB Network.
Which makes sense because they freed that money up in the Kelenic trade. And you were going, all right, well, what's it for? Is it for Ohtani? Is it for something else?
Did you see the Kelenic post that he did that, like, it got people thinking, oh, he's throwing some shade. No,
I did not see
Kelenic,
this.
like, went through his whole post, like, thanking all the fans and everybody and never once mentioned the Mariners. And people were like, why wouldn't he say, like, thanks to the... Yeah, it's this long post. It's a lot of words, too. And in nowhere in those words did he at any point say, like, thank you to the Mariners.
Well,
so there maybe is, I mean, yeah, I was like, oh, is there some tea going on over there? Is there some controversy a little bit?
Cody Bellinger just won the NL Comeback Player of the Year,
yeah.
Which, makes sense because he absolutely sucked for 2 years. I would be like pretty nervous to go spend big money on Cody Bellinger.
Well, that's what the numbers are up there.
And people are speculating he's gonna, get $200 million potentially, which is crazy for me. That's an overpay.
Carpet is Cool did say his momager did later thank the Mariners organization in a tweet, but like that's kind of weird to me. Every time a player leaves, his momager. You never heard that?
Is his mom actually his manager?
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
No, I've never heard momager. What is
like
that?
The term momager? You don't know what that means?
Like,
wait,
are we calling his mother like his manager?
Wait, do you mean like you've never heard that his mom is his manager or the term momager?
The term.
Oh, wow.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Wow. Okay. Well, momager is, you never hear dadager, but momager is a mom manager. I mean, you don't have to Google it. It's
okay, I just want to make sure. Yeah, I never heard that.
Wow. Okay.
Learn something new every day here on the PHLY Phillies podcast.
Yeah, momager is like when you have a mom. Your mom is your manager.
Oh,
They're your momager.
I just never heard it.
Wow. They said like
and I'm shrinking again.
Like a Chris Jenner is a huge momager, like classic momager.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like there's a lot of momagers out there.
Okay.
Yeah, you are shrinking again.
Yes.
This little
chair,
Jamie.
This chair.
It's so weird seeing you so low down there. Okay, but yeah, momager.
Yeah, no, never heard that. Learn something new.
There you go. Oh, I'm not having a stroke, I hope. My God, don't speak that on me. But listen, there were some other things I know people mentioned. Matt never heard momager either.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Matt.
Wow, you're not alone on that. There's some others. Hypothetical. Wow, apparently it's just me. So I didn't want to call Dunedin, but I know momager.
King Crab says I've only heard of MILFs.
Of course. Yeah. I wasn't going to read that, but of course.
Well, it's par for the course with King Crabs there.
Wouldn't be a moment without King Crabs chiming in. I think that's hilarious. Like you guys are all about Dunedin and I'm all about knowing momagers. Yeah. There you go. But I know in the chat, I just want to run through Jamie because there was a mention about Mookie. And no, not Mookie coming to the Phillies, but Mookie Betts being named as the everyday second baseman for the Dodgers. And so Alana Rizzo of MLB Network was a part of breaking that down with manager Dave Roberts as they were talking about this upcoming season, a move from Mookie to second base. There's the move, guys. There's the move.
Absolutely wild how good of a baseball player Mookie Betts is. And he's just going to step into second base and be seamless and be fine. And he's just
a super athlete.
I mean, he almost gets discredited in the Ohtani discussion because he doesn't hit the long ball. But, God, this guy is freaking good. Mm-hmm. So Mookie Betts, second baseman, and they more or less have their outfield set. The Dodgers continue to be desperate for starting pitching help. So a couple other rumors that are out there before we get to Renee's tortuous get guess that ballpark today because I know I won yesterday.
I am winning 6-3, by the way.
I think it's 5-3, and you were cheating for a full week.
I have it written down. I didn't look at the scoreboard.
You were cheating a full week before me, so it's really like 6-5. So before we get to that, a couple other rumors. John Heyman. The fact that he said Ohtani and Yamamoto aren't happening this week makes me think it's actually happening this week. But John Heyman said that 4 to 5 teams have already called the Tampa Bay Rays about Tyler's boy, Tyler Glasnow. Curious to see if the Braves are one of those 4 to 5. I would imagine they are. Now, the Milwaukee Brewers and Corbin Burns. The Milwaukee Brewers are apparently torn as to whether or not to trade Corbin Burns. They know they're basically going to lose him in a year's time, but they feel as though they can contend for their division this year. If I was running the Brewers, I'd say, screw it. I'm going down with the ship, like probably to be damned. But like, I don't know if I'm trading away Corbin Burns if I feel as though I can win the division. I know you can recoup some big pieces for him, but like, that's a tough one for the Brewers. Hopefully they keep him and he doesn't end up in Atlanta because that would be a nightmare scenario.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never a fan of when a team is rebuilding to also. I know someone like Corbin Burns can bring you back a lot.
Sure.
But I also
But you don't want to tell your clubhouse that you're done.
And I'm also stuck on the fact that you're going to move a guy that's already proven himself time and time again to hope that you can bring in someone that's a prospect or someone that's going to pan out. You know, you see it across leagues where depending on the league, they might trade for draft picks. They might trade for prospects in baseball. They might trade for money, just depending on what league it is across professional sports. And I'm not a fan of trading for the what ifs. Like if you're the Brewers and you've got Corbin Burns and you know what he's going to give you, try to build around him. Don't build without him. And now you're bringing in prospects and, you know, what they probably get, a few different players, a couple young prospects, and hoping they pan out.
I would hope you win the division and you can maybe come up with some money and keep them. I don't know. But like, I don't know.
I'm just not a fan of like you're that desperate to rebuild
it's the mid-market, small market teams. They can't really like. They have to hit on these young guys coming up and being good because they can't afford market value.
Because you can get them for cheaper.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
But now you're just it's the what if.
So hopefully, I'm hoping he stays in Milwaukee. Now the Yamamoto market. Jim Bowden has heard that the Mets feel as though they are the favorites. The Mets also, from John Heyman, have been mentioned as the team that is the Blake Snell fallback. And another source, Bob Klapsich, said he heard from an AL executive that the Yankees feel as though they have a huge advantage in the Yamamoto front. And I quote, like way ahead of the pack. So it appears Yamamoto, to me, is going to go to New York, whether it's the AL or the NL. That's to TBD. We talked about the Mets yesterday being like the snakes in the grass a little bit. So it appears Yamamoto and Blake Snell are what they're lying in the grass for. So that payroll at $289 million is probably going to exceed $310 million, $320 million next year, which is absolutely wild for a team that's probably not going to win anything. You love to see it. I love to see the Mets just fail. But I don't want to see him get Yamamoto. Snell, like, again, I don't know if I'd be, like, terrified that they got Snell. I'd be like, okay. I'd much less like to see Yamamoto in a Mets uniform.
Where do I sign? I know Carpet was asking if I played soccer. Yeah, I played professional soccer. I wish that women's sports had these types of potential deals. I'd still be playing. I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I'd still be there signing my deals and continue racking in my millions if I was getting offered. These are insane numbers. But what I keep going back to with Yamamoto, which has me less excited every time I hear a different rumor, is I really, really, really believe that Yoshinobu Yamamoto is taking his time and will not be signing a deal this week.
Well, he's got 1 month. I think
right now, June 4th is close. It is already December. What
January.
It says? Oh.
I want it to be June too, Renee.
Yeah, June 4th is close also. June 4th is close too. But January 4th is even closer. And it's already December 5th. What is today, the 5th? Gosh, I don't know what day of the at all. But the point is, he's got a little less than a month left to sign. And I feel like with him having so many great offers and options, you want to take your time. So his camp has talked about that, wanting to take their time. I know we've talked about it on the show time and time again. So I think I will be more like, excited about Yamamoto deals like next week. But this week, his team is just out there fishing. They're just seeing what sticks, seeing what they can catch.
John Sequela says something. I haven't read this yet, and this is pretty fascinating, actually. Good work by John S. in the chat. And maybe this is why they feel like they're way ahead of the pack. He says the Yankees have not given out the number 18 for 2 years because 18 is considered the pitching ace number in Japan. So that's pretty interesting. Maybe all it took was holding on to number 18 for Yamamoto to sign with your team.
That's interesting. Look, he wants to go. We've heard all the reports. He wants to go somewhere that's iconic and legendary baseball club. He wants to go to a specific location. Then we heard it wasn't a location. Then we heard he wanted to play with a fellow Japanese player. Then we heard he didn't care about that. It's just been all over the place. But I think the one consistent thing, that's a good point about number 18, is he's going to take his time. So with this week, it seems like we came into this week, Jamie, expecting like guns a-blazing from Monday because it's been so aggressive.
Yamamoto
and now
and Ohtani are clogging up the works.
They are. And I feel like if Ohtani especially is the one that's he's really slowing everything down, because I feel like a lot of people understand Yamamoto's going to take his time. But now it's all these other moves. Everybody's just waiting. Everyone's sitting waiting with bated breath to make that next step and make that move. So it's slowing down winter meetings for sure.
Where you don't have to wait with bated breath, and that's Wheelhouse Cards, because they have 2 great locations for you in Wayne and Westchester, and they're our go-to gift and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is cards and community, because a love of sports unites us all. They carry all of your favorite card brands, including Topps Chrome Baseball and Mosaic Football, as well as T-shirts, hats, hoodies, and more from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 Brand, Junk Food Starter, and Shibe Vintage Sports. And if you're a card head and you're looking to get your sports card collection graded, well, Wheelhouse has got you covered. They offer PSA grading submissions, and they also host a ton of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. So stop into either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester, open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY and get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. And be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards. And let me tell you about the Game Time app, because the holiday season is here. You might be thinking like, oh, what can I get that person in my life? Well, get them tickets to one of their favorite events, because that never goes over poorly. Game Time is the fastest growing ticket marketplace app in the country, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to get tickets to all your sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and theater near you. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets with their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're going to have. They have flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to buy and find tickets for every kind of event in your area, and you can get image of your seat views. So get tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you don't have to dig through your email, and snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, before we move on, the last couple rumors I saw, the Diamondbacks are looking to find a full-time DH hitter. Those stinking Diamondbacks. Apparently, Justin Turner and J.D. Martinez are 2 guys they're kind of honing in on there. And Eduardo Rodriguez might be the big news that happens before Ohtani and Yamamoto, as his free agent market, according to John Morosi, is moving rather quickly. It speculates it could happen before Ohtani. He is in Nashville this week and has had multiple in-person meetings with teams. So Eduardo Rodriguez could be the first guy to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit here in Nashville this week.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's been
for,
a snooze fest so far.
I was going to say, it's time for some moves to be made, and it's time for us to see a change happening and a trade of something going on. But you know where you don't have to wait? That's over at Hero Bread, because you never have to wait to eat better at a later time or wait until another time to make sure that you're following your diet, because over at Hero Bread, they've got bread options, rolls, tortillas, wraps that meet wherever you are in life at that moment. Whatever your allergies are, diets, any sort of lifestyle changes you're looking to make, Hero Bread can help you do that. Now, over at Hero Bread, you can make sure you're eating some high fiber, ultra low net carb breads. They also have 0 gram sugar per slice, as well as fewer calories than the leading national brand. So you can go now to hero.co, or you can head over to Amazon, and with code PHLY, you're able to get a nice discount of 10% off at Hero Bread. So again, Hero Bread allows you to have soft, fluffy, delicious bread and also healthy bread at that. Hero.co, using code PHLY to get 10% off. Now, I know you were talking about tickets, Jamie. I just wanted to remind people, as we're all missing Phillies baseball right now, this is why June was on the mind, because June is the London series. And I know I saw I've been getting all the emails about the London series. The weekend pre-sales did end. That was yesterday on Monday that those pre-sale tickets ended, where you could no longer buy the weekend ticket pre-sales. But starting today, some exciting news as you're looking to eagerly get back to watching Phillies baseball, is you can go ahead and buy your single day tickets. So those single day ticket pre-sales did begin today, that you can plan to be out in London in June. Again, those games are June 8th and 9th, which is very exciting, because June won't be here before we know it, that you'll have a chance to go out to London and watch the Phillies play. So that's exciting news.
Yeah, that would be a fun trip to make.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Love the idea of that. Love the idea of that.
Hopefully we put something together where we can maybe go over
Well,
with people.
we're fortunate that we've had our winter break sponsored by Ford, because Ford has allowed for us to be able to be a part of all the excitement of winter meetings. And over at Ford, they are your local Ford store, where you can head over to your local Ford store, make the holidays bright, and take advantage of their year-end sales event that's going on now through January 2nd. So over at Ford, they've got a full lineup of vehicles, including the F-Series, and with their trucks and all that they have at Ford, you can be able to ride in style with a selling line of trucks that are the best in the top in America for 46 straight years, including the F-150. I'm a huge fan of the F-150, and I will one day own an F-150. I'm just saying that now.
I grew up with a bunch of construction dudes in my neighborhood and hunters, and they all had Fords.
Well, the F-150 has the best-in-class available towing. They can tow up to 14,000 pounds, which is a lot of us. And they also have an available payload. It's just their Ford trucks allow you to be able to ride in all different types of, whether it's camping or going out to the game and tailgating, being able to ride in style and be able to have a lot that you're carrying with your F-150 or your Ford truck. So you can learn more about Ford's full lineup and the Make the Holiday Bright sales event at buyfordnow.com. And you can head over to your local Ford to check out what they've got in store and also get a test drive. So shout out to Ford for not only allowing us to be a part of some great opportunities like winter meetings, but also they can get you an opportunity to get behind the wheel and test drive one of their incredible vehicles across their lineup.
Yeah, so thanks to Ford for letting this week happen and have John down in Nashville for us. And now it's time to get to America's favorite game show, Renee, where people get to watch it. Yeah, the PHLY Phillies fans. Favorite game show where we get to watch you get tortured because you think way too hard about this. Just fire away.
So, for the record,
is not really a thing.
What do you mean winning's not a thing?
Well, you've been cheating since the start. It's the contest has already been.
So now it's
Great American Ballpark. The end.
I'm going Great American Ballpark today, Cincinnati.
So because I've been winning,
you were cheating like a full week and a half before me, so it wasn't really a fair game.
I wasn't cheating for a full week and a half. All right, so the score right now is 6-3. I have 6 wins. If anybody needs clarifying.
Well, see, this is where I have to call out your cheating because you like to tout the scores, but it's a skewed score.
I'm just sharing the score.
All right, Deflategate.
You didn't know I was doing this?
I saw you checking stuff out.
We never had rules. And I'm not like...
I didn't think cheating had to be explained as a rule.
But also, there's no way to fully cheat for this game.
Well, there's ways to improve your chances.
Like, cheating would be me going into Slack and, taking it out of, Tyler's Slack.
They they share that
Like that
privately.
would be
I don't
no,
even
I know
know.
that would be cheating if I Michigan this and was going in and like stealing the answers beforehand.
You have an interesting way of classifying cheating. So let's get to today's ballpark, Tyler. Just tell me, should I go Great American Ballpark? Because I'm feeling it today.
I would not. I mean, I would recommend you don't. But it's
I'm
up to you.
feeling it.
By the way, guys, just to go back really quickly to the 18 conversation, dating back to the 60s and 70s, 18 is traditionally handed out.
Can you wait to have this conversation when you show the ballpark so we can stall?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Story time while Renee cheats coming up next. But I am fascinated to hear
I love this. Tyler story time during Guess That Ballpark.
Yeah.
Here we go.
All right, here's
Do
your
it, Tyler.
stadium.
Ooh, that is funky.
Oh, wow. Go ahead, Tyler. Tell us the
All
story.
right,
I'd love to
now-
hear
So,
it.
the 18 in Japan and the
Start from the
significance
top.
of it.
Just start from the top and take your time.
The number 18 dates back to the 60s and 70s in professional baseball in Japan. It is typically issued to the ace of the pitching staff for any particular team. So a couple of players of note that have worn 18 either in Japan, in Major League Baseball, or both include Daisuke Matsuzaka, Hiroki Kuroda, Kenta Maeda just in his contract with the Twins.
Had it written in.
Well, so it was kind of a handshake deal with Mitch Garver, who was currently wearing it. And Garver was like, yeah, if he pitches like an ace, he can have whatever he wants. I'll give him more than just the number 18. So Maeda will wear 18 with the Twins. And Yamamoto now, theoretically, the thought process for the Yankees is if he can somehow work into his contract that he's guaranteed the number 18, I think the Yankees feel like they could maybe use that as a bargaining chip of some kind.
Okay.
I
That's
love
pretty
that
cool.
story. It's so great. You should tell it twice. Did
I
you
don't
hear
think so,
that? You
Renee.
hear that out in San Francisco? One of the sandwich places said that if Shohei Ohtani was to sign with San Fran, they would have like a whole sandwich named after him.
Do I need to call my friend Danny over at Angelo's
Yeah,
Pizza?
honestly, I think it's time to start pitching some Philly spots.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you got an Angelo's sandwich named after you and a hookup
and like
there.
an unlimited, you can eat as much as you want there, and you have an unlimited tab.
I think me and somebody else could make that happen here.
All right, so we've got some answers in the chat. I actually think I know what this is.
Do you?
I do. I'm feeling kind of good. I'm just double checking my work.
So, question because I never
Here we
kept the
go.
list here, has Texas Ranger Stadium been used? It has, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, I'm thinking it's Citi Field.
All right.
Is my initial thought, but it's not my final answer. But that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. And I might not even need a clock today. I know John, ironically, was just saying City also. I may not even need a clock today, guys. I might be done before Jamie.
Wow. I'm kind of stumped a little bit today.
Kind of looks like the Pizza Hut logo a little bit.
Pizza Hut, Pizza Hut, Kentucky Fried Chicken and the Pizza Hut, McDonald's.
The hell is that?
Is this a new level of low stalling?
Do you know that song?
No.
That's a song.
I've never heard that before in my
I'm
life.
crying right now.
A song where? In your head?
No. You never. Okay, there's a whole song and dance with it. Actually, there's like hand motions that go with it. That's a childhood song.
So has Minnesota Twins been used?
I was literally just looking at Target
I don't
Field.
believe we've
All right, I'm
used
going
Target.
final
Dang it.
answer. Target Field.
I was just looking at
Minnesota
that one. But I don't want to
Twins.
have the same answer as you. But it
I won
Kentucky Fried
yesterday.
Chicken and the Pizza Hut, McDonald's.
Are you okay? I thought you had an answer. What was this? No stalling.
I don't know. Well, it kind of does look like Target Field, and I was ironically looking at that when you said it. I promise you. I promise you, I was looking at it
You
prior
guys
to
are
you.
allowed to guess the same stadium if
I
you
know,
want.
but then guessing the same one means we either both get it right or we both get it wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
All right, Renee, I think we're going to put a 30-second countdown on.
Oh, no.
You've already said you had an answer.
Nobody else knows my song?
No.
Gosh, you guys. I had a totally different childhood than you guys, clearly.
CMC says Renee's momager made up that song. No, I've never heard that.
Google it.
I'm glad.
Kentucky
All
Fried.
right, Renee, go ahead. Ask your question.
Has the answer
Go ahead.
What's your last stall question?
Has the answer been said in the chat or out loud?
Yes.
Woo!
Has anybody guessed Target Field in the chat?
Nope.
No.
But it has been said.
Yeah, well, either you or the chat or Renee.
I
is
know. I'm
right.
just trying to play some mental
Oh,
warfare here.
shucks. That does make me a little bit more nervous.
Yeah, because I did say Target Field, just because the chat did.
Was the answer said in the chat, but not said out loud?
No, you can't ask that question.
All right,
That's
all right.
cheating.
You know what?
All right,
I'm
final
locked
answer.
in.
Let's
I'm
go.
locked in. I'm locked in, baby.
What do you got? City Field? Shitty Field?
That right side is making me think that it is Citi Field out in Queens, New York, possible future home of Yamamoto. If it's Citi Field, he's not going there.
So I have to give credit to one person because they have been fantastic lately.
Somebody in the chat got
Shout out to King Krabs has been killing it lately.
What did he guess? I missed it.
In Milwaukee.
That's Milwaukee? Damn.
What? How? That's not right. I throw the
That was
challenge
close.
flag.
Minnesota's not that
I
far
throw the
away from
challenge
Wisconsin.
flag. I throw the challenge flag.
I don't think geographical prominence
I was closer
has
than
anything
Renee.
to do with it.
Minnesota and Wisconsin are like
Well,
right
if
there.
that's the
New
case-
York's all the way over here, Renee. That was a bad guess
if
by
that's
you.
the case, then I should have got partial points when I said Citi Field and it was Yankee Stadium.
No.
And I didn't get partial points for being in the same state. You don't get points for being on the same part of the country.
Yeah, no, I was geographically closer. I win today. Thank you,
it.
everybody, for hanging out with us today. We hope you have a great day. John Foley will be back on with us tomorrow from Nashville. Hopefully Yamamoto or Ohtani make up their selfish minds and pull the plug on the free agent floodgates at the MLB Winter Meetings. And again, thank you to our friends at Ford for making John in Nashville possible. This show has been powered by Ford, so check out buyfordnow.com to find and test drive the Ford nearest you. Renee, don't wear this loss too hard.
Well, how do you feel? You always say American.
You were on the East Coast. I was
but
in
you always
the
guess,
Central
and
time
you
zone.
actually would have been right.
This game doesn't bother me because it's
You
very
always say
hard.
either Great American or something. Like you should have just locked
Tomorrow's
in
going to
early.
be Great American Ballpark. I'm going
You
to
should
get
have
it
just
right.
said American, and you would have been. You would have trickled into a win.
I was close.
Instead
I was
of
in Wisconsin.
Great American. You could have just said American.
All right. Well, that's us. That's it for us today. Have a great day, everyone, and we will be back tomorrow at noon. Appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of the Tuesday.
We'll get the dub tomorrow, guys.
Somebody do something in Nashville. Wake up. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.